It's time to take a stand and stop the sexualization of our children. Action for Canada has created a notice of liability to assist you. The title of this NOL is Facilitating an Exposure of Minors to Sexually Explicit Educational Resources, Activities, and/or Events. The United Nations has mandated that all member nations implement the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Resource. CSE is a learning platform that was developed within the context of a program developed by UNESCO. This so-called resource sexualizes children at the earliest ages possible, and it's no surprise that it's causing great harm to our children, as well as attacking the traditional family unit. According to Section 163.1 and Section 152 of the Criminal Code, as well as the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, it's a criminal offence to sexualize and exploit children. Here at Action for Canada, we've been working to expose this evil agenda and to empower parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens to take a courageous stand. In an effort to assist you, we've created a page on our website where you will find an incredible assortment of information on this issue, including the various programs that have been introduced into our schools. Beyond the Basics is the resource used in Nova Scotia, WIN Sex Ed is used in Ontario, CSE is used in Manitoba, and SOGI 123 is used by the rest of the provinces. By introducing these programs into our educational system, our children and youth are being exposed to sexually explicit pornographic materials in the form of books, magazines, and comic strips. Our kids are also encouraged to become members of organizations that promote sexually deviant behavior and the exploitation of minors. Be sure to take advantage of this notice of liability, which will advise teachers, librarians, trustees, ministers, etc., that they will be held personally liable for exposing minors to any form of pornography or sexually explicit material, as well as any activities or organizations promoting sexual deviancy and the exploitation of minors. By using this valuable NOL, you have the ability to demand that the CSE learning resources be immediately and completely removed from libraries and the education system. That all of the books listed, including titles by the same authors, be immediately removed, and that all educational facilities, including libraries, cease and desist promotion of any and all activities, including performers and clubs that exploit our innocent, impressionable, and vulnerable children and youth. Knowing is not enough. You must take action. Here are some powerful actions you can take to protect our youth, no matter your age or station in life. Pull your children out of public schools and universities. Run, facilitate, join, or help with a homeschool group. Get involved in writing letters and serving notices of liability. Run for office as a school board trustee, mayor, or city councillor. Connect with an Action for Canada chapter near you. We cannot ignore this message. Our children and youth are being subjected to twisted ideologies using social justice as a means to indoctrinate and groom them, and we must protect them. Thank you for taking a stand to protect kids. If you like what we're doing at Action for Canada, please consider making a donation to support our ongoing work. And be sure to join a chapter near you. God bless you, and God bless Canada.
Action for Canada, we unite. Joining hands, let fall the fight. Action for the Canada, we stand tall. With love and faith, we can win it all. We all up high.
Hello, hello. We're so glad you've joined us for tonight's show. A warm welcome to you. Our guest speaker this evening is our good friend, Brodie, and the title of tonight's show is Land, Resources, Money, Exposing Theft in Plain Sight. It's February 18th, 2026, and this is the Empower Hour. Action for Canada is a national movement reaching out to millions of Canadians and uniting our voices in opposition to the destructive policies tearing at the fabric of our nation. Through call to action campaigns, we educate, equip, mobilize, and empower citizens to take action. We are committed to protecting faith, family, and freedom. If you're concerned about the direction Canada is taking and the future of the next generation, please be sure to attend the Truth Matters event taking place this Friday, February 20th. Join Tanya and featured guest Dallas Brodie for an evening of practical strategies for community action, shared successes, Action for Canada resources, and chapter leadership and volunteer opportunities. Be sure to head over to our website for more information. And a reminder also to continue writing and calling your MPs in objection to Bill C9. We've heard the bill will be addressed this coming Monday, February 23rd, to either amend or pass it, so don't let up. Let your MPs know you oppose this bill. If you're joining us on the Empower Hour for the very first time, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Tanya, the founder and leader of Action for Canada. And for those of you who've been watching the show for the past several years, you'll recognize Tanya's land acknowledgement. I thank God and God alone for the ground I'm standing on. We can all speak this land acknowledgement with confidence because the Bible assures us in Psalm 24 that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. Now, before Tanya comes on, I'd like to introduce our special guest speaker. I'm so pleased to introduce Dallas Brodie tonight. Dallas is the leader of the OneBC party and the MLA for Vancouver-Quilchena. Before entering public office, she worked as a corporate and securities lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer for young offenders, a radio and television producer and broadcaster, and an arbitrator at the residential tenancy branch of BC. Dallas was on the Empower Hour 2 weeks ago on February 4th, 2026. And if you missed that show, we encourage you to go on our website to watch the replay. Before Dallas comes on, we want to recommend the must-watch documentary produced by the OneBC caucus entitled Making a Killing, Reconciliation, Genocide, and Plunder in Canada. And now, my friends, will you all please help me welcome Dallas Brodie. Dallas, welcome back to the Empower Hour.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather. And Tanya, thank you for having me as always. It's an honor.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. Thank you, Heather. And so, Dallas, when you were on last, we covered some really important issues. We again talked about the Kamloops claims of the missing and murdered children and that the graves are empty. $12.1 million has been paid to dig those grounds and nothing's being done. And there's demands that that money be paid back. And then we also covered what you're experiencing when you are attempting to go to the universities, the publicly paid for, contributed paid for universities,
Yes.
and not being able to have civil conversations because of the Marxist indoctrination well, a lot of those may be paid operatives as well. So we covered a lot. And then near the end, you said, oh, there was so much more that you had wanted to cover to address some other things that are transpiring in British Columbia. And when I sent the weekly action out this week to introduce you to all of our members in our list to say, hey, you're coming, invite them to come and listen to this interview again. One of the things that, we're highly concerned about is, of course, our natural resources. And there was a headline this week that went, Water Wars, Global Experts Sound the Alarm for Canada. And then it talked about how there was nearly 2/3, 64% forecasts. Okay, so that the weather is getting overwhelmingly hotter. And the good thing about this report is that the climate change propaganda is diminishing. 450 geopolitical experts polled ranked climate change as the single biggest threat to global prosperity years ago. And now they said, now it's down to like 17%. But now the big issue that those 400 geopolitical experts are focusing on is water. And when I saw this, I thought, wow, that actually leads well into the show tonight, because I'm assuming that's probably one one of the issues that we didn't get to talk about last week. So I want to open up the floor to you. I want to hand it over to you, and you just let our viewers know about some of your concerns and what's going on, and how BC is indeed a template for the rest of the country.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that introduction, Tanya. And when I had mentioned to you in the process of filming our documentary, there were a couple of interviews we did that didn't make it into the video, but they were astounding stories, and they're things that are taking place. For example, like just smaller things like on the islands trust issues, like the Gulf Islands, the residents there are now finding that suddenly they're being impacted by DRIPA, and they're not being any chance to respond to that. So I don't know whether you want me to start it. I'm not really up to speed on the water issue so much, except for I can see that I will make this comment. We have been subjected to what I call climate alarmism for years now. Remember when they were telling the kids about 6 years ago that the world was going to explode in 2020? There was a date they gave that the world was going to be over. And this caused children incredible stress, incredible stress. They were so scared that what are we doing? We're not going to be alive anymore. Like it, and this is the fear they've been planting in kids on so many different levels. And I remember in the 70s when we were told that we were going to be running out of food. By 1978, there was going to be no more food. There was going to be a global famine. If you go back to the Time magazine covers, you can actually Google it and say predictions of ice age in the 70s. I think there were 3 different covers throughout that decade saying we're going to hit an ice age and we're all going to freeze to death. So these kinds of alarmist things have been coming up, for my whole life. And you look back at it and like none of it really happened, because what we do is we adjust and we learn things and we engineer and we change and we work on things and we do things to do better in the environment. We do better. The Industrial Revolution, for example, was really dirty. A lot of people got sick. They got things in their lungs from all of that, but we've improved since then. Air quality has improved. So every time, remember when we were first told it was global warming, and then it would be a particularly freezing cold winter, all of New England would be blanketed in snow, and then they quickly changed it and say, no, it's not. If we say global warming, and then when it's cold for a year, people say, oh no. So they just changed the word to climate change. So now any type of climate change is the problem. And of course, the climate has been changing forever, and it goes slowly and incrementally, and sometimes it's colder, sometimes it's warmer. And of course, I'm not saying that we shouldn't try and use less energy and, hang our clothes to dry sometimes instead of always using a dryer, and maybe, being aware. I'm glad that cars produce less exhaust and all these things. But the fear that they create in societies is basically an effort to control. That's how I see it. And to reduce people's living. That you shouldn't be living, like you shouldn't have a shower that's strong shower that comes out of the nozzle and all of these things. So in any event, I can see that this water thing is probably now going to be the next, and this will be subject to more of these claims by basically. Well, let me back up a bit. What we're finding in BC, and I've been doing more and more research into this, is that there are these massive environmental groups in the United States. I've just been doing some more work on it today. I found some more names: Wild Site, Stand.Earth, the Wilderness Committee, and then there's, of course, Tides Foundation, which now goes by makeway.org, the Rockefeller Foundation, and George Soros, and all of these groups that are mainly operating out of the United States have really targeted Canada. And they say quite clearly, we're working with Indigenous groups. And they create groups, and they're using our desire to do well by our Indigenous people to guilt us. And it's a whole thing that they use to move forward into massive land grabs in BC. And we are particularly afflicted. And I notice a lot of these groups that I've been researching, they always seem to have an office here in Vancouver. Quebec is also a hot zone, but they're often based in California. But BC has been particularly under attack from these groups. And I'm doing more and more research into that. And it turns out, I found out even today while I was researching, the BC government gives money from several different ministries to this group called Wild Site and Stand.Earth. They give money to them so that these groups can come up here, launch legal actions against our government or different sawmills or whatever the forestry or logging is, and then to shut down industry. So this is one that I read today. Something Nation, I can't read the name, but it's Wixawa Nation sues BC over timber license extension amid final treaty talks. Well, that's being backed by Wildsight, Stand.Earth, and the Wilderness Committee. And they're basically, they're being funded by the BC government to shut down so that this timber company can get more a cutting extension of 3 years. So that's what I'm noticing. There's this whole, it's like a churn.
You've named it as an industry, and it all ties back to the Global Compact on Migration and 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the water control restriction over all of our natural resources is intended. Like, this is a major wealth transfer. This is about greed, bottom line. This is not about the Indians. If they truly cared for them, we'd rip up the Indian Act. And as you've said multiple times as well, I love that. I reported on that in the action I sent out, that you agree with that, and that we all, if we're all truly going to be treated equally under the law, then let's get to that point. We've already got it in the Constitution. The Indian Act doesn't override the Constitution, but because we've got activist judges, activist politicians that are willing to move this through because of their ties to whether China or the United Nations or the World Economic Forum, and then they're recycling and I call it theft. They're taking taxpayer dollars to fund these NGOs to shut down our industries, like the forest industry. They're just shutting down. I forget where it was in BC, and that's so many. It's not just jobs of the men and women that work in that industry. It's the small towns that those industries support. So they're just annihilating us in British Columbia, and David Eby is full on behind that.
He is full on behind it. And one of his principal's advisors is named a man named Doug White. He's the chief of the Nanaimo Band, and he is one of Premier Eby's principal advisors. He sits right up here, and I'm in the ledge this week. He's up here all the time, and he's right behind Eby all the time, advising him. And this, their ideology really is land back. And it was funny because in the ledge today, they've had this disastrous budget they've brought out. That's a whole other issue, complete disaster. We're now in a deficit that's out of control. And anyway, the green guy, Rob Botterall, got up and got angry at the government for saying they might even nip around the edges of DRIPA and amend it. And see, these people actually believe deeply in their heart that we should give all the land back. Okay? And they do believe that. And what bothers me about this is that if that's really what British Columbians want, and we believe that that's what the road ahead means for us, I think that we need full notice if that's what we're doing, and also a referendum to ask British Columbians, do you want this? And there's been a lot of focus lately on the fee simple titles that have been affected by the famous Cowichan ruling, the one where in Richmond, where they gave joint decision making. They've basically said that Aboriginal title supersedes the fee simple properties in Richmond, which are commercial properties and people's homes. And so this has been a disaster for the Eby government because this has exposed the whole thing. That case is exactly what they wanted to have happen, but they're trying to pretend that it's not. And this is precisely what DRIPA stands for: is all land back, veto power over everything, and indefinite funding to fund whatever they want to do on those lands. But the focus has been on fee simple properties, which if you look at a map of BC, there are just certain speckled areas where there's fee simple properties. I think it's around 2 million properties in BC that are fee simple title. But the real prize is the crown land in BC. That's what they're really going for. And that's 95% of British Columbia. And basically, my view of this, I can't come to any other conclusion, is this is a land grab for all of British Columbia. All the crown land is going to be given to the 204 bands. That's it.
You know, as I've been processing this insane position we find ourselves in, and it can only come from pandering politicians that are on scale and aligned with the globalists. Like, they are traitors this is treason because they're aligning with an unelected body. Nobody ever voted for them. And it's very clear in our criminal code that if anybody facilitates the takeover of our country, that they would be held criminally liable. And, you know, I would just wish a lawyer would buck up and let's charge them criminally and go for treason. That's a side to this, just a feeling. But the fact that the Indians have felt so entitled that we've been paying them hundreds of billions of dollars for years in all of this reparations, and they don't look back on the fact that the Europeans could have come into Canada and they could have done what the Muslims do, and they could have violently eradicated them. And what we're looking at right now is you got a lot of millions of BC residents, homeowners who are irate about this. And you hear, you know, the little bit of talk about civil war. You look at the population of the Indians, and I'm sorry, I don't buy in to the indigenous. That's a global term. It's not in the Indian Act. It's Aboriginal or Indians and the First Nations. They were never first and they never developed a nation. There was, for our viewers' interest, there was over 640 tribes when the Europeans came here. They were all infighting. And I was sitting at lunch once with Chief, is it Kenny Blackwell? And when I made this comment to him, he said, and yes, this was a couple of years ago, and he says, yeah, and they're still in fighting today. And it's true, they're fighting who lived on this land or who walked on this land, and that's my land. And they're just ravenous over the theft. They have no conscience about the fact that I never, nor did my parents ever cause any of them any harm. And the majority of Canadians that are alive today feel the same way. These reparations are a political operation in order to distribute wealth into the pockets of the globalists and these chiefs, because the Indians on the reserves are not benefiting from them, at least very few of them would. And so you and I care more about them, as we've said in the previous show, than any government leader would. So I'm even making an appeal to them today. Like, we're appealing to you, get on board with Dallas. Come out and support her in the work that she's doing on your behalf, because if you think that you're going to live in a free province governed by chiefs, you're mistaken. The globalists are using you as pawns to steal our resources and to get access to the land, and they're just going to wipe you out. There's no doubt in my mind that this is coming.
That's correct, and your point about the average Indigenous person, I've said over and over again, and the documentary exposes this. The average Native person, and they contact me. I've got some who even want to run for OneBC. They know what's going on, and they hate it, and they are angry too. And a lot of them are sort of my age, like 50 and up. And we've all been watching it for the last 40 years. And a lot of them are getting to the age where they can't be sort of canceled anymore. And they say, it's time for us to stand up and say something. Right. I've been watching this for 40 years. It's embarrassing the way our chief and council run things. They steal from us. They treat their own family better than other people. And it's a terrible situation that we've placed them in, and that is the Indian Act. And by the way, that is the correct term, because even if you want, a lot of people now, it's such a privileged position to be an Indian in Canada that people are trying to get their blood test to prove that they're Indian status so they can get what's called the Indian status card. And that gives you a lot of things. Tax-free things. If, you know, like, for example, if someone who has Indian status told me the other day that if you get a car, and sometimes the tax can be $7,000 on a car, right? It's a big PST, GST together. If you go on to a reserve and take delivery of it there at a reserve where you're affiliated, you don't have to pay that tax.
Yeah, just think about how our viewers right now.
That's a big goodie, okay? Like, how many of us wouldn't? So now more and more people want that status card. So you can see that it's not an oppressed position anymore. It's actually something that's, if it ever was, and I'm just going to say this. The key is to make everybody the same and stop this race-based system, because it's being abused by people who see money moving around. And the federal government, the provincial governments, and the municipal governments are all gushing money in this regard. And the reconciliation industry is who's making the money. People have different names for this. Francis Widdowson calls it the is it the grievance industry or she has a different name for it, but everybody has a different name for what this is. And basically it's the elites that are benefiting from this. So it goes to the chief and council, developers, lawyers, and consultants. And these are big money flowing. And then, I'm sure there's other money slipping out here and there. And the average, it's not changing the life of average people on reserves, as we keep hearing from people who have bad water. And, we all hear the stories all the time, and most Canadians go, how could this be? How could this still be going on?
Right. And the thing is, too, is that, the Indians are wanting to claim that, they want independence from Canadians and they want to own the land, but they haven't really developed anything. It's like you're still complaining about not having clean water, regardless of how that came to be. We have paid out hundreds of billions of dollars. So you figure it out. If you're so smart and you want to run your own nation, figure this out. And then if you want to take BC, there needs to be a buyback program. If we paid out all these reparations for nothing, and now you're going to claim that all this territory is yours and us expected. I was talking to somebody the other day because I own my home, and I can't tell you what I went through during the deepest hardships of my life to maintain and hang on to this home and this little property that's mine. And I'll tell you, I'll be darned if I'm going to give it up and hand it over and to anybody without a major fight. And, the government may think that they have all the power on their side, but Canadians are still the majority in this country. And we're appealing to them. You got to step up. You got to stop with the political correctness and, worrying about the race baiting, because this has nothing to do with race or the color of anybody's skin. This is about injustices. And this is about criminal activity, and we need to call it out and expose it. And I don't care, even when Chief Kenny Watts tried to throw the race card out at me. I'm like, are you kidding me? That you're so corrupt. You're part of the backroom deals. And that was the biggest mistake, because he's on our UNDRIP page and I exposed him. And that opened it up to me realizing, going deeper into seeing how many chiefs are working on these illegal and I want to emphasize illegal backroom deals.
Well, it's also like I was reading an article today in preparation for this by a journalist named Cosmin de Souza, whose family he was born in Romania. And I would just want to read this. He said, born in Romania 6 years after the Christmas Revolution and the fall of the communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, I see alarming similarities between my country's struggle against the evils of communism and the subtext of Canada's current attack on private property rights. This is short. I'll just go. Romania's land collectivization from 45 to 62, that's only 16 years there, was a gradual process. It started by taking land from private estates and giving it to collectives, appearing to be land reform. Mm-hmm. Eventually, it moved to full state ownership, removing private property protections altogether. This slow motion confiscation was cloaked in the language of equality and righting historical wrongs. Can you believe this? Mm-hmm. And then under the new system, peasants were told they still owned their land, even keeping legal titles. However, ownership became just a piece of paper. Land, animals, and tools became part of collective farms, and individual landowners had no say over what was produced. So the mockery of ownership intentionally weakened private property. So you can see, this is what I see happening. Our whole system is undergirded by two things: private property and the rule of law. If you nibble away at the edges of private property, look where we're headed. And we don't have private property if the rule of law doesn't support it. So what are we watching? Cosmin has made a really good point here in this, and it's scary because tyranny is incremental. They don't just go right to the end game. Mm-hmm. They start with little bits, and we're actually being coaxed into doing this by thinking we're being kind. Mm-hmm. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We know that old cliche, and it's true. And we want better things for Indian people in Canada, Indigenous people, whichever word you want to use. This is what we all thought was going to happen. And after all these billions spent, things aren't getting better. Go to your local reserve, and they're suffering a really crummy life. And so you ask yourself, what is going on here?
What is this really about, right? And so, Dallas, I really want to draw support and attention to OneBC. I have followed you from the time you were removed from the so-called so-called BC Conservatives. I was hoorahing you and cheering you on. Thank you, Trenzio, for bringing up the page. I would encourage people to look up OneBC and to look at their policies. And in this situation, I know there's many that we're, addressing. We can talk about those tonight, whatever you want, whatever's on your mind to talk about tonight. But what is your commitment regarding these land grabs, regarding the Indians, regarding the treaties that have been signed by David Eby and his team? UNDRIP, for instance, what are your plans and the party's plans to do about this?
It's a 5-point plan. The first step would to be if I were premier, I would immediately stop all voluntary transfers of land and money and power, because a lot of what's being done right now is completely voluntary. It's not really even being negotiated. If you look at some of the deals, like the money flowing, oh, we'll give you 600 million just to do this piece. They get money just to, it's, okay, so stop all voluntary transfers of land, money, and power. Secondly, repeal DRIPA 100%. Pull it all out. We have to pull it out because it's been insinuated into so much now. That could be done fairly quickly, sort of like pulling soji out of everything. It can be done fairly quickly, but it's just saying we're going to do this and it's done, and it has to be done within the next month, right? So you pull DRIP out, then we would declare UNDRIP of no force in effect in British Columbia. We are not going to honor that anymore. Fourthly, we would do sort of, Danielle Smith has led the way, very beautifully, amazing woman, saying that she's demanding things of the federal government. We need to demand as a province that Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982 be repealed or amended. We cannot go on this way with the Aboriginal treaties and rights that were expressed in that, because it's taking down our province and we can't even function. We're in irons. We are stuck. And then the final thing would be to amend or repeal the Indian Act completely and have all reserves go to operate just as townships or municipalities, and give every person who's living on there fee simple ownership to their property. This is now yours. There would be some details around this, maybe a simple cash payout to this, but it's over. And now you can function in society the way the rest of us do. You've got your property. You're either going to grow it, you're going to blow it, but you're going to be like the rest of us, because everybody has ups and downs. Sometimes we make good decisions, sometimes we make bad ones, but then everybody's the same again. And that would be the sort of 5-step plan. And that's really high level, but that's a sort of an outline for how you could go forward. And I don't see any other way to do it, because
No.
this politics of appeasement, oh, just do this and then it'll be over. Just do this and then it'll be over. It's not working. You can see where we're at.
No, and when you're so easily paying money out to individuals that maybe have never worked a day in their life, or, that this is very, very appealing, or when you're getting a stipend every month from the government, it's like this socialist agenda to have what do they call? Sorry, it's on the tip of my tongue. A system where everybody gets equal pay.
Oh, yeah, this is called the equity. So equity is the enemy of equality. Equality means that we all have equal right to pursue happiness. Like, that we have the equal opportunity. It doesn't say you're going to have an equal outcome. I remember when I first came home from Princeton after my first term there, and I come home with Plato's Republic, and I was taking political theory, and I said, Dad, look at this book. And it's really cool because it's got a good idea, kind of. It says like people who are this size of body should be the warriors. People who are good at having babies should have the babies. The people who are best at, like, everybody was divided up, and it was going to be this perfect society where everybody just divide the labor into the right things, and everybody would, be happy and basically be equal. And Dad was like, oh God. He sat me down and he's like, okay, we need to talk about this, because he said, basically, Dallas, it's okay you're reading this, but you need to understand that how would you feel if someone who didn't work as hard as you do got into Princeton as well? I said, well, that wouldn't be fair, because like I worked really hard to get my grades, do my extracurricular activities. I was really a dedicated student. And he said, well, this is what this is all about, Dal. People who work hard will get the same as somebody who doesn't do anything. And what does is undermine everyone, because nobody then wants to work, because the Marxist thing was from each according to his ability to each according to his need. And that was the whole idea. But the people who have the ability get tired of doing all the ability and getting the same. We have to say it's okay for some people to be more wealthy than others because they've worked harder.
And
I,
it's just a fact of life. And some people are maybe good investors and they're
I,
fortunate that way. And they've, like for myself, I had to fight so hard to maintain my home and keep it and pay my mortgage off. I didn't go out and get facials or my nails done. I didn't go out to the
I
movies
didn't
or
even.
fancy dinners or anything. And so I made those sacrifices. And yet what I see happening today is like, don't tell me that you are the only ones that face difficult times. Like, to victimize a key minority group has been their strategy. Well, I don't feel sorry for anybody anymore because it's not based on rationale, like a rationale that we can accept, and that these people are being victimized by the government. It was the universal income is what I was
Oh,
thinking about.
universal basic income.
Yes, and this is what I see
Yeah.
that the reserves are basically set up to be, and why I say they're wards of the state. And this is a perfect example of why nationally the government is pushing for this. It is why it's not going to work. It's not working here, and we want to see the natives, the Indians, get a proper education, have the same expectations on them, because I want to see them thrive.
Yeah.
And my
We,
mom and dad were
yeah.
very much about us working hard to achieve our goals. And if we didn't, then, they weren't just handing anything over to us. We had to work for everything. And that put a very good work ethic in my siblings and myself. And so it sounds like exactly the same for you. And everybody should have that opportunity to succeed in that manner, because you feel good. You feel good about yourself afterwards as well.
Yeah, and I speak to Native parents who are saying the same thing to their kids. They don't want this either. They know that it's a welfare trap. They
Hmm.
know that there are a lot of them who are raising great kids and they're doing great, but the vast majority are really suffering. The statistics show that. But it's a fundamental thing of, like, we've moved away from a society where we honor achievement and merit. And you look at someone like Jimmy Pattison, okay? My parents knew him when he was young. He started just selling cars, used cars, and he started there. He had, nothing. He's worked his butt off. I don't mind if he has a big boat. Do you?
Nope.
I don't mind if he has a big home. He's running this massive empire. Do you know how much work that is?
Hmm.
And the dedication and the thought and then the philanthropy he's done. Why can't he have that? We shouldn't, but we are so into this politics of envy, the politics of resentment, and the politics of class warfare, which is really being pushed on us by the NDP. They truly are. They believe in communism. I know they do, that tons of them do. They are activists, and this is what we're up against. And I keep OneBC, we really believe that our whole society will do better if we go back to a merit-based society where we're judged on our achievements, what's in our heads, not our sexuality or our skin color.
Hmm.
And that makes everybody feel better. And we want pilots who are the best pilots. I don't want the pilot who got there because of his sexuality,
Hmm.
or whatever, her sex. I want people who are skilled. Do you want the surgeon who got there because he was good at it, or because he ticked a box that was politically correct? I mean, it's so silly when you think about it. We want air
Well,
traffic controllers who are really serious, really conscientious people, right? But this is what's happening, and that undermines everything. I think it's kind of being done deliberately so that everything isn't
oh,
working.
oh, 100% it is. Like, the diversity, equity, inclusion is basically what you're talking about. We've got to be diverse, and, we got to give a leg up to the person that's handicapped. And again, it's all appealing to people's, Canadians' sensitivities, to their emotions, drawing them to react emotionally, which has caused them to tolerate this. But this is intolerable. It's causing massive damage to our children. Started 2 decades ago with, yeah, nobody has to compete on sports day. Everybody
That was a
gets a
big mistake.
ribbon. It starts at that level. It starts in kindergarten right now with the SOGI 1, 2, 3 toolkit for teachers in BC, dropping, there's more than two different or one kind of marriage between a man and a woman. Let's introduce multiple marriages. Let's introduce pronouns. Let's get kids turned against their parents. So it sounds like as well, OneBC will definitely take a stand to drop diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools, schools and in all government official, I hope throughout society in British Columbia. Is that a fact as well?
Yes, I call it our indoctrination bucket of goodies. So I would say this is a bucket, and this is one of the things that we would demand if we, even if we formed a coalition or something with the BC Conservatives. We don't know what's going to happen, but I'd say one of them has to be that all indoctrination is pulled out of all of our publicly funded institutions, and that would be okay. Let's cover it. DEI gone from UBC. None of this, all the hiring, the students, you're not allowed to ask them what their ancestry or sexuality is anymore. My kids just filled out forms to go to universities. It's sick what they're asking them. So all of that's gone. So pull out DEI, pull SOGI out of the schools. No more climate alarmism. No more Black Lives Matter in the schools. No more PLO. No more of any, no political symbolism in the schools. Nothing. Just remove it all. Our flags on our public institutions, you can only have the Canadian flag, the provincial flag, and then a municipal flag. All the other flags, you want to fly it on your own house or fine, put it on your car, but not at our public institutions. Our flags are already inclusive. That's the whole idea of them. Then I would say all of the, like, I have friends who are in medicine, the disgusting things they're doing to medical students and what they're being forced to, they're like all this stuff about chest feeding? No, it's breastfeeding. And calling the vagina the front hole? No, it's a vagina, and stop this. And a pregnant person? No, it's a pregnant woman. This is what's being done. People send me things that's from their medical school classes.
Well,
This is disgusting. This is a
and
woman's body, and we're erasing it, and so all of this would come out. This is the start, because once they control the language, they control all of us, and that would be. I know Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's a bit of a heroine to me. She's down in the States. She's in. I think she's a governor or a senator somewhere down in. I think it's Arkansas, and she did this. She pulled out all this chest feeding and pregnant people stuff out of all of it and said it's gone, and it's
it's
gone.
it's just an attack. Like the devil hates creation, and women have this amazing womb. And what would they like better than to destroy womanhood than by having delusional men who definitely need to be having some counseling, trying to express that they're identifying as a woman. Yeah, it's got to stop. I'm not going to hand over my womanhood to some ridiculous ideologies that are not scientific. And the other thing too is that how they are taking over every institution, like the BC law institution,
Yes.
into finances. I have a friend right now who's going through financial courses, and she sent me a text the other day, and she's going, I didn't get one question right because I was trying to figure it out. It goes in and it talks about, how these two women are married and they've adopted a child. And then it talks about she, I think it was about a life insurance policy. And then she's going, well, who is she? Which one is she? And it's like all of this propaganda has to be removed from every single institution. This tragic, what took place, the shooting in Tumbler Ridge, as they're stating in the news in those very critical first moments that it is a woman in a dress when people should have been looking for a young man dressed as a woman. I mean, this is criminal, and it puts lives at risk. I don't know, would you like to as well make a statement about what happened in Tumbler Ridge as well? Just tragic.
Well, just say quickly, and also I'd pull out land acknowledgements. That's another of the indoctrination that's going on. So
Absolutely.
that would come out if they want to do it, they can, but you can't mandate this anymore. In front of the national anthem, we've got the land acknowledgements happening. It's obvious what they're doing. They're trying to erase Canada. So
Mhm.
this Tumbler Ridge situation, what bothers me the most about, like, okay, it is so upsetting to think of these little kids. So I pause on that, but there were guns in that house. They had already been confiscated, and the adult in the house petitioned to get them back.
Mhm.
And this kid got them. And there had been numerous visits. I don't know all the details, but apparently the police had been involved with his family before. They knew that there was a big problem here. So what I think is happening is that people are so afraid to say that this is mental illness that they're allowing this to continue because people are afraid to say this kid's dangerous because they're afraid they'll be accused of being
Intolerant.
intolerant to somebody who's has body dysphoria and gender dysphoria. And so this is what happens when ideology takes over. We are now referring to a gun person. I mean, this is, and it happened in Rhode Island too, a full-grown man.
Yes.
Like just it's just ridiculous. And it's like it's crazy. And but everyone is so, the regime accepted narratives are so powerful. And look what happened to me just for saying that there weren't graves.
Mhm.
There have been 0 bodies found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. That is a fact. And I just got slaughtered.
Mhm.
And I still, it's gotten, the time's gone by and I'm being proven correct. And I want to come back to that because there's big news coming this week on that. But, this is what happens. It's really scary. People see what happens to me and people are like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose my job. And no one wants to lose their job. That's what it comes down to. But this kid should have been in looks like institutionalized. He was threatening his family. It's scary.
Well, and I would say I've got a letter and we're going to be doing a national call to action, but I've got a letter specific addressed to David Eby. And in the letter, I'm holding him 100% responsible for what happened in Tumbler Ridge. And it has to be said out loud. Somebody has to say it. This is government-induced mental illness. This is
Yes.
starting, as I said, in kindergarten. And these kids are being indoctrinated and fed information that never in our life have we ever heard. There is no such thing as a trans child. And to convince a child that they were born in the wrong body is abuse. It is physical abuse, it's mental abuse. And then as well within this letter, and everybody make sure if you haven't signed up for Action for Canada that you are, because then you will receive this letter and this call to action. And everybody, you want to see this happen, you want to support Dallas Brodie, people like Maxime Bernier, then these calls to actions are critical because it supports the work that they're doing on the front line as we basically partner in this. But it has come out clearly, and Dr. McCullough just wrote a report on this, that the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors that are referred to as SSRIs, they're antidepressants that are given to these kids, and that they are at a 43, get that, a 43% higher risk of violent crime convictions
Really?
on these and I have it's a Swedish report where there was something like 840,000 people participated in this study. And so you can't tell me that this is a random study that's picked. There's a couple of studies that it points out. There's so many reports showing the damage that this is causing, never mind physically mutilating a child. And then the case in the United States where the detransitioner, this young woman who had her breasts removed at the age of 16, she's now 22, she won a case and was awarded $2 million. She sued the psychiatrist and the surgeon. And so I've included this in a letter as a warning to every school board trustee, and I'm verbalizing that right now. You know what? We will be coming for you. We have served you notices of liability, proving the measurable harm to these children. And we're telling you, we're showing you that this is happening, and you have refused, you have denied it, you've rejected this information. And now it is putting every single school board trustee, David Eby, premiers on notice again, because we've updated the notice of liability as well to include this information to say, we're done warning you, legal action is coming. How much further do you want to go with this? And I'm in touch with another province with the staff of a premier. And I've said, look, you know what? We're going to be coming out with this action. We are asking you in advance. SOGI must be removed as a resource that is intertwined, as you said, in all of this. And so that's what I look at that boy that committed this horrific crime. You could see how he was mentally struggling and out of his mind, and very likely that was induced. And that's why I call this government-induced mental illness leading to violent crimes. And David Eby, the education ministers, these people need to be held liable at some point. I'm not going to stop until this is out of the system. So I super appreciate your stand on this, Dallas, that you are committed to pull SOGI in BC.
Yeah, no, and no, all of it comes out. If you're a parent who wants your child to learn these things, go and get your own little class. You get your together with your friends, and you can take those weird books and you can show them to your kids in a group where all the parents like that. I
Mhm.
still don't like that, but don't put it in our public system because actually, I think the number is huge of the parents who don't want this in the province. It's been forced on us. And
Well, mhm.
I think, I mean, it's a winning issue. And it's not just because it's a winning issue, it's because it's perverted.
It's
It's perverting creation.
And you know what it is as well? It is introducing pornography so that what
Yes.
they're doing is that they're breaking down our children's natural instincts to recognize predatory behavior. And these children then are open to predators. And we've seen that. I've got a binder in the kitchen this thick, and I should have brought it here just so you could see. It's not complete. It's what I could find on teachers and school staff who have sexually abused children in BC. And so they go where the children are. So don't tell me they're not indoctrinating, sexualizing, and grooming children in our school systems through this. The books, 100%, every single one of them, we should have moral books in our system. They shouldn't even be in public libraries, any publicly funded institution. I think these books should be banned right out. There's no child, because even then, if you have a parent that would be showing these to a child, that's abuse as far as I'm concerned. And around the world, in America and in Canada, this is all coming forward, and the majority of citizens agree with us as they're finding their voice. And Alberta is evidence of that, where even bless Danielle Smith and her team that they listened to what we presented to them and that they began the process of removing these books. And I believe there's greater steps. They've banned puberty blockers and surgeries, for children, and we're going to call on BC to do the same.
Can I do a quick plug here? There's a real
100%.
hero in all of this. Like Billboard Chris has been going around the world and he has a sign that says no child is born in the wrong body. And we're doing an event on February 28th in my riding, and he's going to be speaking. We already have 340 people signed up to attend that. And we can fit 400 people. And he's going to go through the whole history of where this started, why it's happening, who stopped doing it, why Canada, he knows the details about the chemicals that you were talking about, the SSRIs combined with some other things that they're taking. And this is causing a lot of this insane violence. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know it as well as Chris does, but he knows the details of the drugs and also the level of young girls who are having their breasts cut off in BC right now, like
And
at 14, and I mean it's really gruesome.
yeah.
But it's hard to listen to, but it'll be a big question and answer too. So it's on February 28th between 2 and 4, and you can sign up on the OneBC website. It's
Mhm.
free.
Mhm.
But and it, I'm sure the protesters will be there. We're going to have tight security, and we're going to have, you're going to be wanded when you come in because this
Mhm.
has become an insane issue. But
It is.
people, we do need to find our bravery. And I know it takes guts sometimes to stand up to these administrators and so on. I know it's hard. I know.
And as well, to encourage people that are viewing right now, is that if they go to Action for Canada under current issues, we have political LGBTQ, and we have extensive, one of the best reports on all of this information. That if people wanted, say they're working on educating their local officials, this is a great resource page where you yourself can go back and click what did WPATH, what was their involvement, what are they? Oh, thank you, Trenzio, again. What is it that they're stating in as far as grooming children? What was the United Nations or WHO's? We've got all of that information easily available. Can you click on that page, political LGBTQ, as well? Major resources. I did a report in 2018, the United Nations and their, attack against our children. Again, it's an amazing resource that details who these individuals are and the history of it as well. So, Dallas, you're having this event, but it's awfully nice for people to have a page to go back to where
Yes.
they can actually click on these resources, find the damage, because, maybe it's a family member that is caught up in the ideology or the government style weaponization of our emotions, this military style psychological warfare, and they're getting breakthrough and they want, well, I want proof of that. Well, great. Go to our web page, go to this particular page, and you can find that information. Because I've been on the front line of this battle since since spring of 2017 is when I first became aware of
Bless you,
this
Tanya. Bless you
SOGI
for doing that.
123 as well right now. I want to get back to, because I know you have a great information, but speaking of events, as Heather had mentioned at the onset of the show, we're having an event this Friday. And so in Langley on February 20th, starting at 7 p.m., that is on Action for Canada's page as well. We're pumping it out. We should put a reminder actually out, but I had to go and visit the RCMP liaison had contacted me for those very reasons. Do you have security? What's your plan? How is this proceeding? It's going to be at my church. Pastor Brent is completely on board. So I go to the RCMP office in Langley and I'm waiting at the door. And Trenzio, can you highlight what I'm going to provide here right now? And this is a sticker
Oh,
at the door. Okay, so it says RCMP and BC safe place. The location is a safe place for LGBTQ plus victims of crime, harassment, and bullying. Report crimes against member of the LGBT community, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm standing there and I'm offended. I'm like, is this a safe place for me to go into? If this is political. And the creator of the pride flag, Will Gilbert, said that this is what flags are for. Flags are about proclaiming power.
yep.
So they've just taken power over our schools, over our city halls, and now over the RCMP. It's a very powerful political symbol.
Oh, yeah.
So I sit down with him and the officer that's going to be attending at the event on Friday, and they're talking about, oh, at one point, how we've got to be neutral and the Charter of Rights allows these protesters to be outside. And I said, oh, hold on just a minute there. I want to challenge you on something. I said, while I was standing outside waiting for you to open the door, I see the little sticker you have in the window. And right away he's like, yeah, yeah, I know, I know. He didn't, both of them didn't agree with that sticker on the window.
There you go.
I said, that's political. And the RCMP completely, 100% are supposed to be independent and neutral, just like you said. So if you're going to say it, I want to see it happen. And I want that little symbol taken down from the window.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how powerful the political LGBTQ, and we got to name them for what they are. This is not a minority group that is weak and helpless. This is a very powerful political group who are
Oh,
receiving
yeah.
millions, if not billions, of Canadian tax dollars through all of their NGOs. And Trump is doing the right thing defunding them. But anyway, so back on point to this. What I did want to get back to is you said that you have an incredible announcement or update to
Okay.
provide on the, I believe it was it going to be the Kamloops Graves?
Yes. Okay. So the if you Google today, I got contacted by someone who said news is breaking in Kamloops today that the chief of the Kamloops band, Roseanne Casimir, who has relentlessly called me horrible names, demanded my resignation, called me disgust, like the vile things I've been called by Chief Stuart Phillip, that TG guy, and then Casimir is out of control. And the media repeats it as if it's okay to say these things about me. I'm diabolical, vile, disgusting, disgraceful, every word they can think of, calling for me to resign. So just under a month ago, the Federal Privacy Commissioner heard an appeal of a Freedom of Information Act request that was done by Blacklock's reporters, as well as I think another group. And they were trying to get the records, that the progress reports for the excavations that were supposed to have been done. The band demanded $12.1 million to dig. So the quid pro quo was that we will give you the money, but you have to file regular progress reports about the excavations and progress you're making. So we're about 4.5 years on. There's been no digging, as we all know. And the money's been spent. And so this group applied for the reports, the progress reports. And I didn't even know about this until I heard the ruling just under a month ago. They had applied for it over a year ago, and they've been delaying about releasing the reports. It was over a year. And then the federal government decided to just seal the records and say nobody can have any of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Well, in an act of incredible courage, Blacklock's appealed it to the privacy commissioner, and congratulations to her. Maybe the winds of change are blowing, but she said there is no allowance for you to say you're understaffed and you can't deliver. That's what they tried to say. We're understaffed. We can't manage it. There's too much documents. We don't want to do it. She goes, that's not something in the Information Act. You can't do that. I order you to release these documents forthwith and in any event within 30 days. 30 days is on Friday. February 20th. This was a huge victory. Francis Widdowson's talked about it. It is, and mainstream media didn't report this. It was all done. We heard about it because I hear from people who are saying this is an incredible victory. This is a brave privacy commissioner, but I think she's realized this has got to stop. And she says we have to have accountability. So these documents are coming out the day after tomorrow. February 20th is the deadline. Suddenly, there are these reports from Chief Casimir where they're now changing their story about whether they're going to excavate, whether it's sacred ground, whether they know if there are any bodies. They've narrowed their focus. They have to go to 38 different bands now to get permission to see where the bones should go if they dig them. It's incredible what they're saying now. And but their pressure is on now because they have to reveal what's been done, and they've got all these explanations of that they've been having discussions and consultations and and that they're now saying, well, there may not be, sort of hinting, well, we don't know if there are remains, but they're still holding to it in a way. But it's a very big shift in the tone and words being used about this. And all I can say is I phoned one of the journalists who did it today, and I said, I want to give my comments on this. And I said, I've been called every name in the book. And I said, this represents a huge victory for truth in this country.
Mhm.
And I believe that Casimir should resign. First of all, she should refund the money if they're not going to dig all 12.1 million plus interest back to the Canadian taxpayers, because it belongs to
100%.
our money.
Mhm.
And they didn't do it. Was earmarked for that. They didn't do it. Or start digging immediately, and it has to be done by the RCMP, not just a group of people. It has to be done properly, and it should have been roped off for all these years anyway. But leaving that aside, also I think she should apologize to Canada,
Mhm.
and I think she should resign.
I 100%. This is very good news. And, the exposure, being able to expose the fraud. And that's what
Yes.
all of this has been. This has been extortion and fraud at the highest levels of government and within these bands. And these chiefs need to be called up. I think that even criminal investigations should commence. Dallas, I would even encourage you. I know that you're so busy to even think to do it, but at some point, people need to be held accountable for their
A
words.
private
This is
prosecution
defamation.
for public mischief.
Yes.
If I
And
went around saying I have 200
yeah,
bodies buried in my backyard and the whole
yeah.
country comes to a stop, and Dallas says she's got dead bodies in her backyard and it was done by this family, and I destroy that family and I say he killed them all and they're back there, but I'm not going to prove. Think about the insanity of this.
Yeah.
They have accused us of murder, and if there are bodies, if they do dig, then surely some of the perpetrators are still alive. They should be charged, but we have to now do the DNA. It's a process.
Well, and to understand as well that, during some of those eras of time that there were diseases where equally as many white children going to the schools had passed away as well. So it's got to be properly documented. And I've had Michelle Sterling on several times, and she does
Yes.
as well exceptional
Incredible.
investigative reports and spelling it out and making it so easy to understand. And so she has the timelines, and as well saying there's no RCMP reports about missing or murdered children. None of this makes sense. So I think that if they do decide to dig, it needs to be documented by video completely every step of the way, because I don't trust these people. They've lied through their teeth. The chief obviously, to me, is hiding something. If you got $12.1 million and you wanted to make a point with Canadians to prove victimization and hardship, they would have been digging 4 years ago. But we've seen in so many other areas that this is completely fraud. They're lying, and Leah Gazin needs to be held accountable as well for calling Canada a genocidal nation. And even Chief
Yes.
Kenny Watts in Port Alberni, that a couple of years ago, I mean, they put our lives at risk because people within these bands were having a hate on for me because I was just speaking those simple truths in the fall of 2022, saying the graves are empty. And the RCMP report had come out on the missing, so-called missing and murdered women, saying that the RCMP killed them, nobody cared about them, the whites killed them, when 86% of the murders were done at the hands of band members. And to me, that should have been a great relief for everybody. Very sad case for them, but you can't continue to blame the white people, and the Europeans for coming in here, and then you're decades later still blaming us for crimes that we didn't commit. And it has been to exploit and extort money. There is fraud behind this, and there needs to be legal accountability. So, yeah, I wouldn't blame you at all if you decided to press charges against her and call for an investigation.
Also, I'll say that the 12.1 million is kind of a drop in the bucket, because actually in the wake of the 215, Indian bands in Canada received and spent over $350 million. It was given out to they were claiming there were 700 plus different sites in Canada. 350 million was given to people all across Canada to search for bodies, and have failed to produce a single body. And then, yet the hysteria produced by these outrageous falsehoods was such that Parliament was induced to unanimously pass a resolution that Indian residential schools were a genocide. No, not cultural genocide, but the Nazi type of genocide, without any proof of even a single murdered child, not one. And so, as a brilliant lawyer named Barry Kirkham writes, these lies have created a grave risk to the continuance of this country. They must be challenged and shown to be without factual foundation. The truth about Canadian history is that Canada treated the natives better than any other country did. In the USA, tens of thousands of Indians were killed as manifest destiny spread westward, and they were displaced. None of this happened in Canada. And John A. Macdonald, this is just John A. Macdonald saved the Plains Indians from their own internecine warfare, from American whiskey traders, and after the collapse of the buffalo, from starvation. He cared deeply about the Indian bands and insisted their treaty rights be respected. And this is the restoration of the truth is necessary to save our country. And this is the truth, you guys, is like the truth. Everybody needs it.
Mm-hmm.
And as Tom Flanagan said in our documentary, though, they don't want to let go of this, because they pull on this and the whole
Thing will collapse. Well, it's the whole reason that they started this false flag to say that there were all these murdered children, especially children, again, going on the emotions and the heartstrings. Remember, flags were at half mast.
churches were burned.
Shoes, little children's shoes were put out, observances, over 100 churches were burned. So this has gained the ground to then take the next step to land grabs, resources grabs as well. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to share a page, Trenzio, for a moment, Dallas, while we're on this, because I want people to understand what it is that you are saying and the magnitude of this. So again, under current issues, you'll drop down to UNDRIP. There's a report at the top of the page. And when I got attacked by this chief in 2022, I put this report together. I've done numerous videos and presentations explaining actually what all of this is about for a number of years now. And if you go down, you will see some of the breaking news about residential schools, but you'll also see, and I haven't updated this in a while, but this is the hundreds of billions of dollars based on this fraud that Canadians have been paying out. and the different reasons why, victimizing this group so that they could do this wealth transfer. Where is all this money going? Who's getting it? The band members are saying they're not receiving this money, they're not benefiting from it.
Oh,
Here's the report about the 86%. And then if we go down a little bit more, like I said, because I was getting attacked, I went, look, like the graves are empty. I'm not being cruel. I'm
no.
not being heartless about this. I'm celebrating the fact you're
Yeah.
wrong. The graves are empty. This is something that everybody, yet they weren't celebrating it. And I was like, what is wrong with this picture? And then here is what you were talking about, $12 million spent on mass grave hoax in Kamloops. I had Michelle on. This genocide thread was based on this, again, funded documentary that was strategically brought out at a certain point. And then it just keep going down the page. Here's the churches. And then this was Chief Kenny Watts with his fraudulent attack against me, him making a public statement calling me racist, and again, putting my welfare as I'm traveling on the island at risk. And these people, like I said, need to be held to account for the crimes that they've been committing against good people like Dallas and I. So Dallas, did you want to comment, make another comment
Yes,
on that?
I have
Okay.
something I want to show you. This was can you see that?
It says every child matters with a little post and it go the other way. Nope, the other way. There. Now zoom in.
This
Okay.
is this is a
Yes.
huge billboard that is in Penticton still that says 215 on it. I don't know if you can see that part, but it says 215 right here.
Mhm. Yes.
And I'm there standing in front of it holding just a handmade thing saying zero bodies. We did that while we were filming and that made them so mad, that iconic picture, because what bugs me is this. First of all, even the band has said that they're anomalies. So this is a fake billboard, still claiming 215. I'm going to be interested to see if this gets changed this week. But they should be on the back side of the sign. It said great news, zero bodies, because I flipped it over. I went great news, zero bodies. We should be celebrating.
Exactly.
We should be filled with joy that this whole thing was a mistake. And I'm very concerned that pride and money is like the climb down here is going to be big, because this is going to be a win and a lose. Because if they have to admit, you see what I'm saying here, this lie has gotten so big,
Mhm.
or this claim that hasn't been proved, let's call it, it's gotten so big that how it's going to be hard to stand in front of the country and say we were wrong.
Mhm.
But Frances Widowson keeps saying we need a reckoning.
Mhm.
She doesn't want the money refunded. She wants it digging. She goes, I will not accept anything but digging. Dallas, I don't even want a refund. I want them to dig and prove. We need to know. If you've heard Frances speak,
Mhm.
she wants to know. And Michelle has said the same thing. And these are amazing women. I've learned a lot from them. I know far less than they do about the details, but they know every detail about what the numbers, the names of the people who actually died, the children, some of how them did die. And,
They've got the evidence that's needed to go to court if this comes to that point. They've documented it all brilliantly. And, there's a verse in the Bible, and usually after a show like this on this issue, I bring it up. And the Bible verse says it's from God, stating that when you go into a nation, do not sign treaties with them, because otherwise you will also be tied to their rituals or their way of life. And of course, that's what's happened here, and it's done nobody any favors. It's been the demise of Canada. We've denied God and the Word of God. We haven't been uncompromising in that. And for whatever reason, our forefathers, fathers of Confederation, felt like they were maybe doing that right thing.
of course they did.
Yeah,
They
by
thought,
doing
for
this.
sure
And
they
I,
thought they were doing the right thing. They didn't
yeah,
want to slaughter them. They
no,
wanted to educate them. I'm like, if you want to genocide people, why would you educate them first? I mean, it
yeah,
doesn't make sense. The whole story, were mistakes made? I'm sure there were. There was abuse in my school growing up. There were kids who were molested. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I knew in my high school in Vancouver, public school, that there was teachers sleeping with grade eights. And I knew over at PW, Prince of Wales, this very publicized case of the teachers who were molesting all the 14-year-olds on the Quest program. And he went to trial years later. But there's been abuse. There's plenty of abuse to go around. In fact, there's abuse going on today right here in front of us. Like, so we'll never stamp out all abuse. But the truth is, I do believe the intentions were essentially good. The chiefs, it's in the documentary. This isn't me saying it, it's historians who have told. The chiefs demanded education for their kids because they could see the world was changing. They wanted them to learn agriculture. They wanted them to learn trades. They wanted to have the weapons. They saw. And so I sometimes say, well, what were they supposed to do? Well, you could say, well, they could just go home, but that wasn't the world then. Everybody was moving around. Spain was on the move, Danish were on the move. Everybody was exploring the world, and this is what was going on at the time. And I think the Canadians we apparently, according to Nigel Bigar, treated the Native population better than any other country in the world.
I've heard, and history proves that, and it's too bad they didn't appreciate it. They've now bit the hand that feeds them,
I know.
and in a sense, right, that has just provided so much. If they had just appreciated it and then chose to thrive within their communities and take advantage of all of what we provided them, tax-free fish, whatever all of the perks had been, but as you said, greed, evil, pride has come in, and I don't think it's going to bode well for them in the end once all of this is done. But I think we are going to set things straight in Canada so everybody is equal under the law and according to the Constitution, and that we are going to be united in thought, because you can't thrive as a nation without being united and having sovereignty and some good old-fashioned patriotism that will always, bring people together.
And I always want to finish by saying, remember, there are a lot of Indigenous people who don't like this, okay? This is not, we can't paint, it's the chiefs in council, even Trudeau and Chrétien in 1969 brought forward the white paper to say we cannot go forward with two classes of citizens. It was the white paper of 1969. And the AFN, the Assembly of First Nations, the group that is 635 bands in Canada, they said, no way, you're not taking away our Indian Act. Because Trudeau, I didn't like him, but he was right there. He said, we're going to have citizens and citizens plus, and we can't do it. And look where we're at. So
What a mess.
right. And, and a lot of Native people have suffered badly as a result of being forced to live in these communist ethno states where they can't even own their own property.
No, and so I'm praying for a great resolve and a great reset in Canada where all of this is going to be put straight and everybody will be equal under the law with the same privileges and the same work ethic. Now, Dallas, how can people, Trenzio, would you bring up OneBC's page again? I want you to have a visual of this for you who are visual. And no matter where you are in the country, you possibly know somebody in British Columbia, please tell them about Dallas, the actual OneBC page, please, Terenzio, thank you. And so Dallas, how else can people support you? I've always encouraged people to follow you on X as well, but help us inform people about what OneBC is doing and bring awareness to Dallas and her party, please.
Okay, so many things you can do. Okay, you can always donate. You can become a member. You can also go to our website and find out about our upcoming events. We just did a tour through. We went to Sorrento, then to Penticton, and then to Creston. And by the way, we had to turn people away. We had the first place was 200 people. Second place we had 120. That we could have filled it to 200. It was incredible, the turnout we had, and both places held the line because they were subjected to vile threats, insults, threats, abuse. And one of the woman who was running the hall in Sorrento, she's a 60-year-old woman like me, and she's just running this with her daughter, and we had to just say, it'll be okay. She was terrified. She said she didn't even know what we were talking about, but she had committed to renting out the hall. She was nonpartisan. She wasn't taking any sides. And the abuse that she took, but you know what? She held the line.
Good.
And we went to Creston and the Ramada Hotel, first of all, the rec center canceled because they got abuse from the local chief of the Lower Kootenay Band, screaming and yelling at them and saying, you can't do this. So they canceled. We're following up with that, and we're going to be dealing with that. We're not going to take that. That's a publicly funded building. But so the Ramada Hotel in Creston took us, and they got the same abuse, threats, and the owner held the line. So here's the good news. Courage is contagious, and people are starting to say no. I'm
Yeah.
not caving into a bunch of disgusting emails.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to challenge pastors as well. Open your doors
Yeah.
to these events. Pastor Brent Smith is our pastor from Riverside Calvary Chapel. And I've said, Pastor Brent, are you okay with this? And he says, absolutely, Tanya, I support you. And so we're looking forward to a good turnout. And that we need, even if people have to stand outside, if it's 1,000 of you in the parking lot, that bodes well to
Yes.
the sad bunch that are showing up that are, indoctrinated and don't understand what actually is going on because they're unwilling to have a conversation. So good for
And by
you.
the way, Tanya, the lady in Sorrento got a standing ovation from everybody there.
Oh,
She's crying because
yeah, that's
she held
amazing.
the line for freedom of speech. That's what she wanted.
Yeah, and we need more of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Dallas, and thank you for being so brave. I've had Maxime Bernier on the show recently, and I said, like, these are the populist leaders. Dallas, take a good look at her face. This is one of the populist leaders of Canada, and so we need to fully get behind these leaders. We need to help them find good, moral, ethical, quality, honest candidates to run. That's always a big part of it, going and being facing an election, but that doesn't start 6 weeks before an election. That starts now before an election is called. So I'm really going to encourage people, our viewers, once again, make sure that if you know people in BC, if they don't know about Dallas, bring the awareness, because she is standing on all of the policies, everything that we could possibly dream about in taking back our country and making sure that our children and our grandchildren, the future generations, have the same opportunities that we did
Oh,
growing
yeah.
up.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
also follow me on X or Instagram or Facebook. That's another way. And just if you cannot even do that, just watch the documentary or send it to a friend if that's all you can do. Or another thing you can do is just go to work tomorrow and take those pronouns and that land acknowledgement off your email signature. If that's all you can handle right now, that's one thing you can do is go and do your little pushback, because you can't be forced to do that. So
That's an excellent idea. I love
why
it. And
not?
be courageous. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to
No.
lose. They may threaten you, they may bully you, but all of this is coming to an end. They know it. They might double down a little bit more, but we got to all together take these steps. And I believe we can do this, Dallas. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us again on the show tonight.
Thank you, Tanya, and God bless you for your work. You're an amazing woman. And Heather, thank you for your beautiful introduction. And I just can't thank you enough, Tanya. You're an inspiration to me as well. We all help each other to be brave. We need each other.
Absolutely. And I love it when you say it's something, and one of my mottos is courage is contagious. So go out there and be courageous today.
Be
You've done that.
brave, do
Okay.
something.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks exactly. Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much, my friend. We'll see you
Okay.
Friday.
All right. Okay. See you Friday, everybody. Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, well, that's amazing. I love Dallas. I love what she's doing. She is indeed so brave and courageous and standing on the front line. And this is where I've seen such a shift in the last 10 years, 10 and a half years I've been at this. And people were just too concerned about stepping up and stepping out. But political correctness is now in our rearview mirror. You are on the right side of history. If you are speaking out, take all of our materials, start sending them to your elected officials, start befriending them, because you have no idea how they have been lobbied by the other side and lied to. And with the best of intentions, sometimes they've signed on to these crazy things like Soji or DRIPA or, whatever else it may be, because they have too, many of them have been deceived. And I'm not making excuses for them, but our experiences through our chapter leaders and some of our members is that, like, they saw the information, went like, holy smokes, what? Yeah, we really don't support that. So do take the time. Don't assume that they have the information. All right, so the next week's guest is actually, it's going to be me. And I thought it was time that I start talking about the sexualization and indoctrination of our children in these petri dishes that they call public education. And the title is Soji 123, Indoctrinating Our Children to Death. And that would be based on really what happened in Tumbler Ridge. There was a mass shooting days later, like I say, in the United States, where a trans person, a trans man, identifying as a woman, shot his wife and a child at his son's hockey game and injured others. And it's got to stop. And we've got to get to the source of the problem. We've got to call it out. I will be launching the call to action against, and it's not against the premiers, but it is to give the premiers the power to say, wow, again, I'm being served this notice of liability. If this were to go towards a legal action, if a detransitioner in their province decided to say, I was indoctrinated and groomed in the school system, the premier, we have evidence that the premier was notified of the measurable harms this was causing in multiple ways, like I say, psychologically, physically, emotionally, then they have got to understand that liability is just around the corner. And I quote the huge win in the United States where this young detransitioner was groomed and exploited, her innocence was exploited, and that's a shot across the bow. And we got to take advantage of this. This is a powerful position to be in. I'm hoping the province that I'm in conversation with today is going to take this step. If you see one announcing it, you'll know why. And I'll say no more, say no more. But this is the kind of work that Action for Canada is doing in the background, and we're winning. We got Soji 123 removed in Saskatchewan. We're working on this other province. We are going to demand that David Eby remove this. Don't talk to me about gun controls or mental health issues. You know, we've got the evidence of why this young man headed down this route and so many others like him. And the suicide ideation, the rate is like 19 times higher once they've transitioned, so-called transitioned, had these medical mutilating surgeries. Who wouldn't be upset by the time they get in their 20s and go, wait a minute, I think that I've been deceived. Where did it first begin? Gee, when I was 12 or 14 years old. Okay? And then they're going to want justice if they possibly have the strength to do that. So you can help by making sure you take action when we launch that. All right. And so the Bible verse, this is one of my favorites, you guys. Those of you who follow me regularly will see, yeah, I recognize that, Tanya. Same little cute little picture. I love birdies, and there they are with the flowers. It brings some joy to my heart and so much encouragement. Galatians 6:9 says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And that's my encouragement to you today. Don't listen to the noise. Look at the facts. It took us decades to get into this mess. I've been at this a decade. I'm just starting to see us get out of this mess. But I'm seeing that once these dominoes start to fall, it's going to be a good position. We're going to be in a good position. But we need all you educated and ready and supporting us along this journey. The more of you that step up right now at this time in history, the faster that we are going to find our way through this. Okay, so I hope that's encouraging to you tonight. Make sure on Rumble that you give us a thumbs up, that you subscribe to our Rumble and to our YouTube channels. You know, I'm going to just one more thing. I got a friend texted me the other day, and he said, I was literally on your X page, and as I am looking at posts, they're disappearing. And I said, I knew it. I knew that I'm being censored on all of these platforms, and that is the second time that that's happened. And several months ago, a friend literally took a video of a post, which was a really popular post, and the numbers were going up and up and up. And as she signed it, the numbers were going down and down and down. And so I really need your support. Action for Canada needs your support in sharing our information, because we're obviously doing some damage. And so you can be proud of yourselves if you actually take the opportunity to share the information with a friend. Okay, that's what you can do. Okay, that's your call to action. Anyways, I hope to see you next week, and I hope you have a fantastic week. We got a weekend that's coming fast upon us. For those of you on Friday night, come up and say, hey, I saw you on the Empower Hour. Happy to be here. It's going to be great time. It's going to be a fabulous time on Friday. I'm excited to be there with Dallas and helping to educate more citizens and get them mobilized in our own communities. So God bless you. And as always, God bless Canada. Thank you.
In times of financial uncertainty, safeguarding your assets is increasingly important. In response to ongoing inflation, economic challenges, and market instability, many Canadians are adopting the timeless strategy of investing in precious metals. Historically, gold and silver have held their value, safeguarding your assets against economic turmoil. Action for Canada is pleased to announce our partnership with Steve of Sun City Silver, providing valued members of A4C with expanded investment opportunities designed to help you achieve your financial goals. Steve is an ally of the Freedom Movement, and he's offering members of Action for Canada exclusive access to some of Canada's premier prices. By leveraging his connections with Silver Gold Bull, you can access competitive rates for securing your precious metals. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader, offering live pricing 24/7 and boasting nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. For an order of $5,000, be sure to indicate you're an Action for Canada member and receive a complimentary 1967 silver dollar, courtesy of Sun City Silver. Expand your collection further by referring a new customer who places a similar order, and Steve will reward you with a special bonus thank you gift. Your purchase with Steve is a dual investment. You invest in your future while simultaneously supporting the Freedom Movement with a percentage of each sale benefiting Action for Canada. For more information, be sure to visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Secure your assets. Protect your future. Support Action for Canada and the Freedom Movement. The information presented is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to provide financial, legal, or tax advice, as we are not licensed financial advisors, accountants, or attorneys and cannot provide professional counsel. Be advised that the content and information provided does not create a client relationship. We recommend you consult with a qualified professional advisor before making any financial, legal, or tax decisions. Please note that Action for Canada is not responsible for an individual's financial outcome. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment.
Chapters across the nation. We are going to be in every town and every city, and we are going to build communities within these communities of like-minded people who are actually going to care for one another again and love on each other and give each other the help when they're down. We are going to use the teams and the people that build within chapters to support our businesses. The government's actions are completely 100% unlawful. Judgment will again be found on justice, and those with virtuous hearts will pursue it. You have a virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing that because I serve